Alright, gonna do Rush. This is gonna be sweet action. I got the help of my buddy Rich Hargy on this because it is just a tough list to make. How I rank albums, I listen to each song, I give each song a grade 1 to 4, I add up the grades, divide by the number of songs, find the mean average for each record, put the records in order. And at number 19, Test for Echo, 1996. One word we came up with on for Test for Echo, it's just kind of plain, it's just kind of there. It doesn't really jump off the deep end, it doesn't really take any chances, it's just kind of there. It just kind of exists. The best tracks on Test for Echo, well, Driven is good. The worst tracks, The Color of Right, Time and Motion, Dog Years. Dog Years is a few dog years too long. It is not good. Resist, Limbo. Limbo is an instrumental. It's not that good. Carve Away the Stone, not that good. Test for Echo at 19. 18 is Vapor Trails, 2002. Vapor Trails kind of suffers from the same thing that Test for Echo did, in that it's just kind of there. One word for Vapor Trails, I call it forgettable. It's just kind of there. Peaceable Kingdom is okay. It's got a real good raunchy guitar sound. Sounds like Fender Tele. Am I wrong, or does Alex play more Telecaster later in the discography? Nocturne's okay, but the worst tracks on Vapor Trails, the title track's not great, Secret Touch is not super good, Sweet Miracle's not great, Out of the Cradle not great, Vapor Trails. If you like anything I say, please hit like and subscribe. 17, Snakes and Arrows from 2007, and I feel like a broken record at this point because it's kind of the same deal with Test for Echo and Vapor Trails. Snakes and Arrows is just kind of there. One word though, I would say relief. It is better than the two before it. It was kind of a relief. Not a great record. The best tracks though, Far Cry, Armor and Sword. The worst track on Snakes and Arrows, I would say Good News First is just kind of okay, but I mean, Snakes and Arrows is trending upwards from the two before it, 2007. Number 16. Number 16 is going to be the strangest record on this list. If I had one word for this album, it is weird. Caress of Steel, 1975. It's just weird. They got a song on there called I Think I'm Going Bald. I think it was kind of a parody to the Kiss song I Think I'm Going Blind. Kiss and Rush toured together extensively in the day. These two bands will always be connected. If you've never heard the story of The Bag, definitely look into that. The Bag was an integral part of the touring between Kiss and Rush. One word though for Caress of Steel, again, it's just weird. 1975. The record label was not happy with it. They said, you better give us an album of hits next or you might be out of here. So, you know, the next album after Caress of Steel certainly was not an album of hits. But the best track on Caress of Steel, Bastille Day, is great. But then, of course, the worst tracks, I Think I'm Going Bald, not great at all. The Necromancer is not great. I mean, if I heard them play this at a concert, I would have been losing my head. But it's just not great. Caress of Steel's weird. Second album with Neil Peart, it just kind of went off the deep end too many times. Very strange. Now, the next album at 15 is Counterparts, 1993. Counterparts is okay. One word for it, guitar. It's the return of the guitar. Rush, famously or infamously, brought a lot of keyboards and synths into the 80s. And, you know, Counterparts was an intended return to the guitar. Alex Lifeson, he might be the MVP because he just in the 80s, he kind of took a backseat a little bit. His guitar parts definitely took a backseat to the keys. He just went with the flow. MVP guy, but then, you know, Counterparts, I think it was time to bring back the guitar. Unfortunately, Counterparts is not excellent. I mean, Animate's great, Stick It Out is great, but tracks 7 through 11 just kind of dip. The Speed of Love is not great, Double Agent's not great. 93 was a weird time. Geddy went off and did a solo record. Counterparts. 14. 14's Grace Under Pressure, 1984. I mean, what a weird time for music. Michael Jackson Thriller was the biggest album in the world. You know, Bruce Springsteen, Born in the USA, Duran Duran, we can go on and on. The LA metal scene with Rat, Motley Crue, you know the names, came up. Thrash metal was invented in '83. What a great time. So Rush puts out Grace Under Pressure, and one word for it, it was and is dark. It just has a dark theme to it. Distant Early Warning, of course, an all-time classic. Red Sector A, what a great song. But tracks 4 through 7 just kind of dip off. The Enemy Within, The Body Electric, Kid Gloves, Red Lenses. None of these songs are super great. Track 8 does somewhat return a little bit. Between the Wheels is better, but you know, Grace Under Pressure, it has so much promise. I just think that the filler tunes, I hate to even use that term, but some of the tunes do kind of sound like filler. 13 is going to be the debut record, 1974, and I really don't even know how to feel about this record because it does not sound like Rush at all. Geddy Lee's writing the lyrics. If I had one word for the debut record, I would say Zeppelin, because that's what it gets compared to. It sounds like Zeppelin a little bit. When it first got played on the radio, people called in wanting to know what the new Zeppelin song was. I mean, it's definitely not the Rush we know today. So hard to rank this record. The best tracks, Finding My Way, of course, Working Man, of course. That song will forever be tied to Cleveland. The worst tracks, though, there are no terrible tracks. It's just a pretty consistently good record. That's why it comes in so high. It's not my go-to record, but it's consistent. There's no terrible tracks. Need Some Love is okay. Take a Friend is okay. At 12 is Presto, and I love the 80s because that was when I was introduced to Rush. Presto was my first studio record. It was my first Rush concert. 1989. If I had to give Presto one word, crafty. It's just crafty with the whole magic and the rabbits and the top hats. It's just a crafty record. Show Don't Tell is a good song. Chain Lightning's a good song. The Pass is an amazing song. Anagram's amazing. The worst tracks on Presto, though, I mean, Red Tide's just okay. Hand Over Fist is just okay. But I love Presto. I love the 80s. Now, coming in at 11 is just an impossible record for me to rank. It's Clockwork Angels, and every time I listen to this record, I like it more and more. It is their last record that they'll ever do, 2012. One word for Clockwork Angels, it is heavy. It is heavy. Huge bass. Just the bass guitar is in your face. Maybe Geddy's best bass guitar record. The best tracks on it, BU2B, The Garden. What a way to end your recording career on The Garden, the last track. The worst tracks on Clockwork Angels, well, there are no terrible tracks. Halo Effect is okay. Wish Them Well is okay. There are no terrible tracks. It's just a good solid record. It's a heavy record. Neil Peart said it is the record they always wanted to make. And every time I do a list like this, it seems to move up. But now it's at number 11. 10 is Fly By Night, 1975. It's not my go-to record. Early Rush is not my go-to era. But Fly By Night holds up for sure. If I had to give it one word, it's raw. It kind of has that sound of the first record, but kind of definitely shows you where they're headed. With Neil Peart writing the lyrics now. Geddy Lee was not a great lyric writer. But Fly By Night's good. Anthem is great. Bytor and the Snow Dog, the epic battle is incredible. But you got Rivendell, it's okay. In the End is just kind of okay. But Fly By Night's good. It's number 10. Number 9 is Roll the Bones. And I just love Roll the Bones. If I had to give Roll the Bones one word, it would be unapologetic. Because Rush kind of turned some people away in the 80s with all the keyboards and synths. You know, Grace Under Pressure, Hold Your Fire, Power Windows, Presto. Those 80s records did turn some people away. So in 1991, Rush comes out with Roll the Bones that just kept up the 80s sound, in my opinion. And I love it. Roll the Bones is unapologetic. It is great. Tracks like Dreamline, Bravado might be my favorite Rush song ever. The title track, Roll the Bones, is great. I love the rap in the song Roll the Bones. They took chances. It's great. Where's My Thing? It's the first instrumental since YYZ, like 10 years there between instrumentals, and it's good. And there's no terrible tracks on Roll the Bones. It's just a good record. Face Up is okay. Heresy is okay. Not bad. Love Roll the Bones. All right, at number 8. Number 8 is Hold Your Fire, 1987. And if I had to give Hold Your Fire one word, it is underrated. Hold Your Fire is great. I don't understand why it gets so much grief. It gets a lot of criticism. I mean, it was 87. It was right in the thick of that 80s. Well, Rush had to keep up. It was the 80s. They're not going to do a Farewell to Kings. And I think Hold Your Fire is great. One word for Hold Your Fire, it's underrated. The best tracks, Force 10, Time Stands Still, Second Nature, Mission, Turn the Page. These are great songs. If I had to say there's any bad tracks on Hold Your Fire, Tai Shan is just not that good. I think I heard Alex say in an interview about Tai Shan, he said, "What were we thinking?" High Water is just okay. If you'd cut the last two tracks off of Hold Your Fire, I bet it would stand up a lot better because it's good. It's real good. At number 8 is the fourth record, 2112, 1976. A lot of people say this is the best one. I mean, like Pink Floyd, people gravitate right to Dark Side of the Moon, and Rush fans gravitate right to 2112, and it is a great record, but in my opinion, it's a little overrated. Now, I don't mean overrated in a sense that it's not good. It's a masterpiece, but when compared to the bar that Rush has set in their 40 years, 2112 is not their best record. I mean, the best tracks, of course, the song 2112 is great. The Temple of Syrinx is probably my favorite part of the record. Passage to Bangkok is amazing. Tears is amazing. The worst track, though, on 2112, Lessons, is okay. I mean, of course it's great. It's 21 freaking 12. If you like anything I'm saying, please hit like and subscribe. Now, number 6 is Signals, 1982. If I had to give Signals one word, it would be forward, and because it's showing you what is to come. It's showing you the future of Rush here. Signals is kind of another one of those transition records. I mean, I know Moving Pictures had keys, but Signals brought the keys in more. Very forward thinking on what was to come. The best tracks on Signals, Subdivisions, of course. I think all of us Rush fans feel like Subdivisions was written about us. The Weapon is so great. The worst tracks on Signals, I'm not a huge fan of Chemistry. Alright, number 5. Number 5 is Power Windows, 1985. I think it's their best 80s record because it's just so consistent. It is great song after great song. The best tracks on Power Windows, Big Money, Manhattan Project, Marathon. The worst tracks on Power Windows, there are no bad tracks on Power Windows. Territories is okay. Middletown Dreams is okay. Emotion Detector is okay. They're certainly not bad. And then, of course, it ends on Mystic Rhythms. I think Mystic Rhythms was a single that was released off the record. Power Windows is just awesome. I think it's their best 80s record. Number 4. And the next 4 records are not going to be a shock. And I like when I do lists and I have something different to add than the standard opinions. But, I mean, I just don't know how I can. These next 4 records are kind of just cemented in stone. Number 4, A Farewell to Kings, 1977. Just amazing. One word for A Farewell to Kings, enchanting. The album cover is enchanting in such a creepy way. The opening guitar riff by Alex is just enchanting in every way. A Farewell to Kings is great. The title track's great. Closer to the Heart is great. The worst track on A Farewell to Kings is probably Madrigal. It's okay, but I mean, A Farewell to Kings, it's many people's favorite for a lot of reasons. Number 3 is Moving Pictures, 1981. Definitely a classic, of course. One word about Moving Pictures, it's a landscape. It just paints pictures. The lyrics paint pictures. Of course, the album cover gets you in the mood to look at pictures, especially if they're moving. 1981, just so good. The best tracks, well, Tom Sawyer. You know, you can't hate Tom Sawyer because it's overplayed. It's still probably the best Rush song ever. YYZ, just a killer instrumental. The worst tracks, though, on Moving Pictures, The Camera Eye is okay. Vital Signs is just okay. Those two songs kind of maybe dip a little. For the hardcore fans, YYZ. Number 2 is Hemispheres. I mean, Hemispheres could be easily, it could be number 1. 1978. One word for Hemispheres, prog. This album is prog. After it was done, the band said, we are never going to do that again. The best tracks for me on Hemispheres is The Trees. The epic, epic Trees. Just great. The worst track on Hemispheres is probably Circumstances. I mean, it's a great song, but probably the worst of the songs. Hemispheres is just awesome. It's prog at its finest. It's a masterpiece. What was up with Rush and all the naked dudes on the records? Anyway, but the number 1 album is Permanent Waves, and Permanent Waves isn't even my favorite. If I grab a Rush album right now, I'm grabbing Roll the Bones. I'm grabbing Presto. I'm grabbing Power Windows. But when I actually break each album down, look at the songs, Permanent Waves is the best record. If I had one word for Permanent Waves, it was a compromise, because it was a total compromise. I mean, you got songs like Jacob's Ladder and Natural Science that any Hemisphere nut's going to gravitate to. And then, of course, you got Spirit of Radio, Free Will, Entree New, which looks forward toward the 80s. Permanent Waves was an ultimate compromise record. Another maybe transitional record for them. Any one of their records could be called transitional, though. The best tracks on Permanent Waves, of course, The Spirit of Radio. Natural Science is probably my favorite song. Now, the worst tracks on Permanent Waves, well, Different Strings is okay. But I mean, the album's great. It's on a lot of people's list as number 1. It's my number 1, Permanent Waves. If I said anything that you liked, please hit subscribe. Thank you. Thanks to Rich Hargy. Peace.